So you should talk about your settings more. What does F2 mean? These are all great questions. Wrong person. I don't dive into that, people. I don't. Tisk tisk on me if you want to unsubscribe, because I don't dive into all the techie stuff. You won't see me do a gear review. You won't see me on here talking about the specs of this camera, the weight, the this, the that, how many. I don't get into all that, man. I shoot. I'm a shooter. I don't care how they do it. You don't ask, if you was to go and you ask Steph Curry how he shoot, he'll try to explain it to you the way he do it, but he don't really know. You can't replicate how he do it. He has a skill set just for him. My skill set is just for me. I know based on the way I like to shoot and the desired result of the shoot that I see in my brain before I click this shutter, where I want my settings to be. I know shit just looked up what ISO meant. I know shit just looked up what shutter speed do and all that, because I knew what it did, but I didn't technically know what it did. And at the end of the day, it all boils down to how much light the camera is going to let hit the sensor. That is it. That's it. All three things in that exposure triangle talks about how much light is going to hit this electric sensor. That's it. And when you talk about your f-stops from 2 to 16, 2 to 16, right? You basically talking about how much shit is going to be in focus. Think of it this way: if you like me and you kind of rode that bus that was a little bit shorter than the bus that everybody, anyway, the lower the number, the least amount of shit that's going to be in focus. When it comes to your aperture or your f-stop, the higher the number, I don't know if you can see that, that means more stuff is going to be in focus. So if you're shooting landscape and you want the entire mountain range to be in focus, f16. Right? If you just want to pick a spot on that mountain range, or you want to pick a flower or a tree to be in focus, and you want to kind of have that fall off of everything else being out of focus, you bump it down from f16, f11, f8, f5.6, f4, f2 point whatever, then your lowest f-stop, right? And it's just that simple. But it seems that simple maybe to me because I have a little bit of experience with this thing. But at one point, I did not have experience with this. I just shot on full auto, right? I let the camera do everything. And then when I started learning that I had a desired look that I wanted to achieve with my work, then I started shooting more aperture priority, right? I would put it on the aperture, put everything else in auto. Then as I got a little bit more advanced, I would put it in full manual mode. That's the best way to get the most out of the camera and the best way to get the most out of your creativity, because I may have a shot where I just want just that rim light of the client's face. I don't want everything else to be exposed correctly. I want that look. And I'll try to put a picture here, right about now, of what I'm talking about. If I want to play with more high-key work, I will let more light hit that sensor to the point where someone very technical would say, that picture is overexposed, it's too this, you blow your highlights out. I don't give a shit. I want it to. It's my work. I'm not entering no kind of technical photo contest. I don't give a shit. It's the look I wanted. So stop dropping into people's comments saying, oh, you blew those highlights out, huh, bub? Man, let me see your work, bub, before you sit here and talk about what I creatively wanted to do that. Not everything has to be, no pun intended, picture perfect. Get creative with your work. I don't get wrapped up in the settings. So once again, great question, wrong guy. You know what I mean? And that's why people ask me, bro, why you shoot Leica? And my simple answer is my brain can handle a Leica. My skill set may not 100% be there yet, right? To justify the amount of investment this was. But it's simple. The menus are simple. There's not a lot there. Let me turn this on and try to show you. Not a lot there. Compared to a Canon, a Sony, and all this other stuff, there's not a lot in the menus. I don't know if you can see that. But there's not a lot there. I'm trying to figure out how I can, there we go. There's not a lot going on in the menus. Right? Not a lot going on at all. And that works for my brain. I don't like having to dig all through the camera to find my ISO. Everything that I need as far as my aperture triangle is sitting right here. Now with some of the newer cameras, I have a Canon R6, right? I could go in those settings and make certain buttons that really don't have a function on that camera and make it a hot button for my ISO or my shutter speed. I know I can do that, or my exposure compensation. I know I can do that, but I don't want to do that. Last thing I want to be doing is looking down at my camera, messing around with settings while the model is sitting there sweating her butt off, sweating makeup, hair, all outfit. I don't want to be doing that. Everything I need, my 3 components to make and compose a good photo are right where I need them to be. And I know how to reach them without really even looking. I know which way to turn the knob without really looking. If the picture turned out too bright, I know to crank either my shutter speed or my ISO down. That's just where it is. I leave my exposure compensation at -1 to help try to protect my highlights. Because I shoot black and white, I know highlights are the first thing to get blown out and lost, right? And if you know what blowing out a highlight means, so let me explain this the best I know how, or the best I understand it. When you blow out a highlight, especially in black and white, that means there's absolutely no pixel data in that portion of the picture. And it's not recoverable. You can shoot as dark as you want and you can pull information back, but if you shoot too bright, you cannot get that information back because technically there is nothing there. The sensor did not pick up any information in that area of pixel, and the camera didn't even register. So there's nothing to pull back. That's why they say if you blow a highlight, you may as well throw the picture away. Unless you do it on purpose and create this high key look, right? And I think some of that stuff creatively is overrated. If you like film, like they always say with film, if you're shooting, your best bet is to overexpose and underexpose with film. Right? And if I get that, if you're a film shooter, if I misquoted that or missaid that, let me know in the comments. But from what I hear, because I have film cameras as well, I still got 5 or 6 rolls of film. I am scared to death to even get freaking developed because I don't know what I'm doing. So I guess it'll just be like a little early Christmas present or birthday present when I finally get it developed to see how bad I jacked it up. But I don't want to keep buying film and keep jacking it up until I figure out if I'm doing it correctly. But anyway, just learn your camera. Learn your camera, and I say this. If you are a novice, learn how to shoot a autofocus lens first. Because it'll save you a lot of heartache and pain. Especially when it comes to your aperture and your focus. Because with this camera, it's a rangefinder. You take 2 images. You got a real life image, and then you got an overlay. And you line them up perfectly, and that's when you're in focus and you take your picture. If you're not patient enough to do that, which is why this system is so slow and it helps me do that, because when I had my Canon R6 with the sticky eye autofocus and it would track and move with the subject and it would track their eyes, whatever technology them nerds put in there, I would come home with 1,000 images from a shoot because you just sit there and you just shooting up the club, man. Shooting up the club, shooting up the scene, shooting up the session. You coming home with all this work, because you really don't have to do nothing. You can hold this, you can hold the autofocus camera with eye tracking on it. You can hold it at whatever angle you want. And as soon as you half press that shutter and it catches them eyes, man, you can just sit here like this and just shoot all day. And there's nothing going into that. You just spraying and praying that you got at least 1 or 2 deliverable photos out of that burst to deliver to your client. This system makes me slow down, and I love it. It's simple. I'm a simple person. I don't like all that stuff clouding my brain and making me feel like I got to go. I don't want to leave a shoot with a headache from thinking about gear. I want to think about my composition, I want to think about the light, and I want to think about my artistic ability to deliver what it is the client is asking me to deliver. Actually, I take that back. I always aim to over-deliver. I do. But anyway, great question. Wrong guy. Love y'all. Peace.